Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Indie Alaska is a groundbreaking series that dives into the lives of people living in the last frontier. Each episode introduces you to colorful characters from around the state. Funding for Indie Alaska is provided in part by Alyeska Pipeline Service Company. Catch the latest episodes at alaskapublic.org.
Cook Inlet Tug and Barge, a marine transportation company specializing in harbor services focusing on the Port of Anchorage and the major commercial participants in the Cook Inlet region, providing customers with marine services specifically tailored to their needs.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. On the warning advisory map, we've got high wind warnings out for the central and eastern Alaska range. Look for winds to gusts of 75 miles per hour through the passes west of the Tok Cutoff. That's out through tonight until about 6 a.m. tomorrow. The wind advisory a little bit farther to the north there. And then winter weather advisories are out for the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coastline, as well as the west side of the Arctic coast here. That's out until 10 p.m. tonight. Look for visibility is reduced to a half mile, snow and blowing snow, as winds from the east-northeast 15 to 30 miles per hour, the gusts 45 miles per hour. Again, reduced visibilities down to a half mile at times on both sides of the coastline there. Should be better around the Barrow area. And then there's also a winter weather advisory down here for the Kuskokwim Delta and the greater Bethel area for the exact same conditions as I mentioned up here for the Arctic coast. Possible wind gusts 45 miles an hour, snow and blowing snow. That's out also until 10 p.m., after which time conditions in all three of those areas will begin to improve as the winds slacken off. Visibilities will improve markedly. On the satellite image here, you can see a band of clouds that rotated northward. That was the front that brought 1.5 inches to 2 inches of rain to some areas of southern Alaska, the North Gulf Coast. Seward picking up 1.55 inches in the 24-hour period ending at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Cordova had 1.68 inches. Yakutat picking up 1.83 inches. And by contrast, lighter amounts of rain. Still pretty good, though. Juneau had 8,800, Sitka 3,300. This band of clouds now, the heavier rainfall amounts over the next 24 hours will be more over the Panhandle. Then back to the west, another wave down here will be rolling up, and you're going to see 1 to 2 inches of rainfall tonight across the southeast coast as this next low surge of moisture pushes northward. So that's going to stay wet and then change over to showers probably sometime tomorrow. Otherwise, low pressure here pulling northward. That's what brought the gusty winds and showers of rain and snow here to all of the southwest part of the state, even into Cook Inlet, and another system farther to the north there, creating the gusty winds up along the Arctic coast, 15 to 30 miles an hour, gusts to 45 miles an hour. Back out to the west, big circulation here north of the Pribilof, that rotating a band of snow back into the St. Paul and St. George area. 2 inches on the ground now at St. Paul at the airport there, and snow showers all the way down to Unalaska. Kind of a mixed condition here over the Alaska Peninsula and in toward Bristol Bay. Rain reported at King Salmon, Bethel, McGrath, and mixture of rain and snow up at Nome at times today. On the chart this morning, there's the second low in this position. The first low up here, that's what brought the gusty winds initially to the Alaska range, diminishing, but they'll pick up as this low pulls northward. That's what brought the winds gusting over 40 miles an hour at Anchorage International Airport this afternoon, and gusts over 50 miles an hour out of the east through Turnagain Arm. This trough, that's what brought the heavy rain to the North Gulf Coast. This is what will bring the heavy rain tonight to the Panhandle, and some rivers will approach bankful conditions with the heavy rain. See that continues through tonight. Pretty active trough here with moderate showers or rain, heavy at times in the area, a break, and then this next trough bringing showers of rain or snow to all areas of south central Alaska tonight, and keeping it wet, Prince William Sound over to about Cordova. Areas of light snow showers or flurries up here over the north and northwest interior. A little drier condition here in the east there, and the north slope looking pretty good. And those gusty winds after midnight, you can see the gradient now shifting up to the north a little bit, so that'll drop those winds off along the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline, and also eventually here even on the west side. So those winter weather advisories ending at 10 p.m. and conditions proving pretty good there. You can see the clearing working into the southwest coast and over Bristol Bay, but a lot of snow shower activity here across the Bering Sea, even reaching the Fox Islands and areas out to the west beginning to taper off a little bit there, but snow showers pushing back into the Bristol Bay area. And that same pattern for tomorrow, showers of rain or snow depending on your elevation and the time of day here over just about all the southwest coast. This trough will bring showers of rain or snow to most areas of Cook Inlet and bring snow levels down to sea level. In fact, hillside of Anchorage could see 2 inches of snow, but that'll pull off in the afternoon, begin to see some breaks showing up as that trough moves through. And again, the mixed precipitation here from Bristol Bay all the way up into Kotzebue Sound. That should stay mostly snow showers out over the Bering Sea and then back into a mixture of rain or snow showers over the Aleutians. Not too bad up here in the north. Dry conditions, light winds, a much better day tomorrow up there than what you saw today. And then for Tuesday, finally another couple of storms appear on the map here. This one coming up from the south, bringing gale force winds and rain heavy at times back into Kodiak Island. Late Monday night and Tuesday morning, this is the afternoon projection here, and that wind and rain increases all across the Alaska Peninsula and southern Bristol Bay. Still some leftover showers in the south to north flow up and over this ridge here over the northeast Pacific. So partly cloudy with occasional showers along the North Gulf Coast, drier conditions farther inland. Looks pretty nice here for the Copper River Basin areas up across 40-mile country into the eastern Brooks Range. Just an isolated snow shower or two. And drying out here, most of the moisture now shifting off into Canada, so just a lingering shower over the Panhandle, but drying out from what you'll see tonight and tomorrow in that area. Back out to the west, higher pressure ridging in over the west central Aleutians. Still another trough here coming around will bring snow showers into the Pribilof Islands. Southwest flow will keep snow showers along the Yukon Delta coast, Nunivak Island, and kind of a light variable wind day with occasional light snow there for St. Lawrence Island with that low center just about right on top of you. And the next system out here to the west pushing wind and rain into the far western Aleutians. It looks like gales will probably hold off until Tuesday evening out that way. For temperatures this afternoon, mostly in the 40s here over the southeast coast, 45 at Skagway, 46 in Juneau, same thing at Wrangell and Petersburg, 49 at Sitka, with about a third of an inch of rain in the last 24 hours. You'll get a lot more than that here in the next 24 hours. Yakutat 45, 44 at Cordova, and up at Gulkana 46. Warm spot in the state today was at Northway, 60 degrees, 51 with some wind there at Delta Junction. Fairbanks 46, 43 at Tanana. Fort Yukon up to 55, but gotta go out west here first, got the maps mixed up. So mid 40s over south central Alaska, and kind of a contrast here, 21 at Cape Newenham to 40 degrees at King Salmon. Otherwise lower to mid 30s for the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians, Pribilof's 37, one of the warmer locations at Adak. And up the coastline, 25 there at St. Mary's with a 42 degree reading at Unalakleet, but 33 at Nome, and Savunga had 30. Now up to the north here, 55 at Fort Yukon, 37 up at Arctic Village with 34 at Anatuvik. Temperatures in the teens here for the most part along all of the Arctic coast, 14 at Barrow, but up to 22 at Kaktovik. And back to the southwest, mid to upper 30s here over the northwest coastal areas. In the Kobuk Valley up to 45, and as I mentioned, 33 in Nome. Looking at the lows for tonight, mostly in the teens here out over the Bering Sea and the northwest coast. 21 the forecast low for Nome, and teens here for the north slope and the Arctic coast as well. Mid to upper 20s to lower 30s over the interior. And that pattern above freezing temperatures tonight for just about all of south central Alaska in the 30 to 35 degree range. Upper 20s for the Copper River Basin, staying in the 40s there across the southeast coast, but McGrath may drop to 38. And looking at highs for tomorrow, again, mild conditions, 40s to lower to mid-50s here up over the eastern Tanana Valley. Upper Yukon Valley also back into the lower to mid-50s with near 50-degree temperatures over the southeast coast, but a little cooler up to the north, mid-40s. And the coldest areas again along the Arctic coast, but forecasting into the low to mid-20s up there for tomorrow with mid-20s, mid-upper 20s here up over the northwest. Out along the coast, mid-20s for the highs tomorrow, Yukon Delta coast, but into the lower 40s there for northeast Bristol Bay around King Salmon. Upper 30s to lower 40s for the peninsula, upper 30s out over the Aleutians. Flying weather, look for with the couple of troughs moving through, the first one exiting the area, so occasional marginal VFR, and then with the next one depending on the timing. So expect marginal VFR at times throughout the day there along all of the Panhandle, of course the North Gulf Coast. Northern Susitna Valley could see some IFR showing up at times. IFR with that southwest fetch of snow showers right into Kuskokwim Bay, marginal conditions here over the Kilbrook Mountains up into Iliamna Lake, and then a break to the north, marginal VFR along St. Lawrence Island with some IFR through the Bering Strait, and marginal VFR at times there on the eastern and central Arctic coast with that easterly wind blowing that offshore there. So look for conditions to become VFR, a big improvement over what you saw up there today, say around Point Lay to Wainwright and then back down to Cape Lisburne. Marginal VFR here extending back over the west central Aleutians. Otherwise, got VFR in the forecast here from Kodiak Island all the way out to Adak, and then also for Shimei and Attu. Passes, Anatuvik, VFR, both sides of the mountain range there. Same forecast for Adigan, VFR south entrance to the north. Lake Clark and Merrill starting out marginal but improving to VFR throughout the day. Rainy, a little lower on the conditions, IFR becoming marginal VFR. May become VFR there by late afternoon. Windy, marginal VFR at times, possible IFR in the southern entrance. And for Isabel, marginal VFR improving to VFR probably by early afternoon. Mentasta will just be VFR the entire day there with Tanita, occasionally marginal, lowest conditions on the eastern entrance. So that might switch around and might be lower on the west side there tomorrow afternoon. Portage, IFR, gradually improving conditions throughout the day there to marginal VFR, possibly becoming VFR here on the eastern entrance late in the day. Chilkoot and White, occasional marginal VFR at times throughout the day for both those passes tomorrow. Freezing levels here showing the frontal boundary kind of northwest to southeast here with the warmer air back up to the north and then at the surface coming in behind, and that whole pattern shifting gradually to the east there, pushing it through at the surface here back out toward Kodiak Island. The lower freezing levels coming in over south central Alaska. Again, should bring the snow levels down to sea level over northern Cook Inlet late in the morning into the early afternoon before the moisture runs out. We get some clearing behind that. And icing threats with that trough coming through, occasional icing here of the mixed to moderate rime varieties coming in across Prince William Sound, northern Cook Inlet, then a break, and then some more icing with moisture coming in off the Bering Sea. Below about 9,000 feet out here from the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta across Bristol Bay and back across the peninsula. And then some spotty stuff here farther to the north. Icing free from the Brooks Range, upper Yukon valleys to the Arctic coast and back down through the Bering Strait. Looking pretty good here for much of the Bering Sea as well. Upper level wind flow chart showing gradually this south to north flow edging its way eastward there, and once this pushes through, then the rains will change over to showers there for the southeast coast. The upper trough coming through, that's what's going to knock the snow levels down to sea level here across Cook Inlet and many areas of south central Alaska for some possible wet snow down to the lowest elevations midday tomorrow. And then for 9,000 feet south to north flow, not all that strong, 5 to 15 knots through the interior, but stronger down toward Kodiak southwest, 25 knots and 25 to 30 knot winds out here along the west coast. Back around to the north on the back side of that system, 15 to 30 knots, and southerly winds here, but not all that strong, into the southeast coast, just 10 to 20 knots. Then at 3,000 feet, here's a trough swinging through. That'll change, once that happens, the rain will change over to a more off and on showery condition there. Southwesterlies 25 to 30 knots, but staying light up here over the east central interior, just 5 to 15 knots, but stronger out toward the west coast. Southerlies running at about 20 to 30 knots, and then coming around back to the northwest to the west here across the Pribilof, still another couple of troughs working in toward the coastline. Turbulence, occasional moderate chop, Kodiak Island, the Aleutian Range, western Alaska Range over to the Kuskokwim and Kilbrook Mountain areas, and along the hills up through the eastern Norton Sound areas, and then some light to isolated moderate chop for the far western Aleutians, as well as the North Gulf Coast, mostly northern Lynn Canal over to about Yakutat, maybe McCarthy. And after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Hello everyone and welcome to Alaska Weather Facts. I'm Jim Peranto. Today in the studio I have Christine Nelson, who's the meteorologist in charge at the CWSU, or Center Weather Service Unit, and it's based out of Anchorage, and she's here today to talk to us about what the CWSU does and the kinds of information it provides. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you.
I have to admit, I know very little about the CWSU, which is why I'm glad you're in here today to enlighten me and the viewers out there. I know some forecasters in Alaska have at some time or another gone through the CWSU, and I want to start off with, why was it created?
The Center Weather Service Unit, also called the CWSU, was created nationally, was created following a series of fatal aircraft accidents, and in particular one that happened near New Hope, Georgia in the mid-1970s. A DC-9 Southern Airways jet ran into a line of intense thunderstorms and crashed. The NTSB reports of all these fatal accidents determined that better weather information provided to the pilots could have prevented these accidents. So in response to the NTSB report, the FAA contracted with the National Weather Service to bring meteorologists into the control centers. And that's how we were formed.
And so this is, you said the mid-70s. I believe the crash that you're talking about was 1977.
Right.
And so CWS has been around 25 years roughly.
Right.
So who's your primary customer then?
Our primary customer is the Air Route Traffic Control Center, basically the air traffic managers within the center. Although we do provide weather information to TRACONs, our main primary customer is the controllers.
Okay. And where is the CWSU located in Anchorage?
We're co-located with the ARTC. We are inside, right there with the controllers, face to face, right with them.
So is that at the international airport, or is that at Merrill Field? What?
It's actually near the Elmendorf base.
Oh, okay.
Is where they're located, off of Boniface.
I've always wondered, where you were located. Are you the only unit in Alaska?
We are the only unit in Alaska, yes.
Okay.
And there are 20 others across the lower 48.
Okay. So you're providing exclusive information to the air traffic managers or controllers out at...
Yes, just for Alaska.
Okay, all right. So how does the CWSU assist air traffic managers or controllers in managing air traffic?
Right. We provide 2 weather briefings a day, and we focus on major weather features that could adversely affect air traffic into the 10 major airports in Alaska. And those weather features are turbulence, icing, low-level wind shear, precipitation, low clouds, whatever is, the main concern for those particular airports. And those airports do range from the North Coast to the Aleutians to the Southeast Panhandle, and include the larger airports in Alaska of Anchorage, Fairbanks, and Juneau.
That's a big area.
It's a huge area.
And you also provide some information with volcanoes, correct?
Yes, we do. We provide volcanic weather support, kind of volcanic ash support, where the ash is going to travel. And of course, that is weather dependent, how the winds are flowing. We also, we don't do it alone. The CWSU coordinates with the Alaska Volcano Organization and also the National Weather Service's Air Weather Unit to try and determine what the plume height was and kind of plume direction. And from that point, the AWU, the Air Weather Unit, produces a segment, and from that segment, the Center Weather Service Unit produces a graphical segment so that it's easy to understand at a glance. We provide that for the controllers at the ARTC, And then we also take that graphic and we fax it out to 70 outside users as a courtesy.
So are there any products available to the public that they can get from the CWSU?
Yeah, there are two currently. There's the Center Weather Advisory, also called the CWA, and the Meteorological Impact Statement called the MIS. The MIS and the CWA are basically produced when there are adverse weather conditions that may affect air traffic in the entire state of Alaska. But in addition, MISs, we also will issue an MIS for temperatures minus 65 degrees or colder aloft, because jet fuel congeals at minus 65. So aircraft want to avoid those heights that those temperatures are occurring. And then the other that we issue is for altimeters that are going to be 31 inches or greater, because there are no aircraft altimeters that go that high.
Yeah,
so.
and that's good information to the pilots out there.
Right.
That they can actually grab that stuff right off your internet page, correct?
Yes, right off the page.
Is there any plans in the future for increased information sharing between the CWSU and the public?
The FAA is testing some technology that will allow people who get the software and go through all the appropriate procedures, but they're testing some software that will allow CWSU produced graphics and forecasts to be viewed by flight service station, air traffic controller, towers, and also by pilots.
Okay.
So it's be part of the capstone project, but that's coming. It's something that's being worked on.
Great. And you're fairly new into this position.
Yes, I've been here 5 months.
Okay, and how's everything going so far?
Oh, I love it. Alaska's great.
Yeah, and you've been up here before.
I was here in '93, actually in Fairbanks. I did fire weather forecasting for the summer in Fairbanks and just had a great time.
Great, great. Well, appreciate you coming in here today, and if people want to get some more information from the CWSU, they can email you.
Absolutely.
And I think you've also provided a phone number. They can call the office directly.
Yes.
And I invite the viewers out there to check out the website, because there's a lot of good information on there besides the MISs and the CWAs.
Right. There's also links to the air weather unit, which is actually located in the forecast office, so you can get to their products as well.
Great. Well, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure talking to you. And thank you for joining us here on Alaska Weather Facts. Until next time.
Welcome back. Over the inside waters, look for winds mostly southeast at about 15 here for Clarence Strait, and 15 knots over the central inner channels. Northern Lynn Canal increasing to 25 knots tomorrow afternoon with seas at about 5 feet. Otherwise, behind the trough in front here, lighter, more variable winds from the west-northwest. Only 15 knots here, the entire stretch of the coastline. Then on Tuesday, with high pressure building up out here a ridge, look for west winds up to 25 knots there for the north coast. Otherwise, northwesterlies 15 to 20 for the remainder of the coastline. That same wind pattern also in store for the central and southern inside waters, northwest 15 to 20 knots, but the seas less, just 3 to 4 feet. And then south winds 20 knots in the afternoon for northern Lynn Canal. And out Cook Inlet tomorrow, southwesterlies 15 to 20 knots. Small craft advisories here for Kodiak Island, the Barren Islands, and the western North Gulf Coast, while Prince William Sound looking south at about 10, west 20 for the central and eastern North Gulf Coast. Then for Tuesday, that next storm bringing gales back into Kodiak Island, going 35 knots at this point in time. Easterlies picking up to about 30 east or east-northeast there for Shelikof Strait. Small craft advisories for the Barren Islands, 25, could be up to 30 knots there, blowing into Kamishak Bay toward Augustine Island, then dropping back as you head north through the inlet, north of the Forelands, just east or east-southeast at about 15. Same thing for Prince William Sound, and south winds at about 20 knots here for the north and western Gulf coasts. And looking at tomorrow for Bristol Bay, southwest winds 20 knots. That wind pattern extends all the way down the coastline here. Small craft advisories on the Pacific side of the peninsula, 25 to 30 knots there from Cape Sarachev up towards Sitkinak. And then for Tuesday, look for east winds here for Bristol Bay, or east-southeast at about 20. More of a northerly direction down the coastline, northwest 25 knots there on the Pacific side of the peninsula, and then easterlies at about 30 to 35-ish there for the water southwest of Kodiak Island. For the Aleutians, out west, northwest 20, 25 knots here for the areas west of Adak, and then northwest for Adak and Atka, about 20 to 25 knots, then taking a turn to the west to west-southwest, 20 to 25 knots. So some small craft advisories in the areas there with the seas running anywhere from 7 to 10 feet. And then on Tuesday, northwesterlies, 20 to 25 knots here for the Fox Islands with 7 to 9 foot seas. More westerly direction here for Adak and Atka. Then that next storm coming in, bringing these winds out here over the far western zone up to 30 knots in the late afternoon. And for the southwest coast, southwesterlies here, 25 knots, Cape Newenham up over to Nunivak Island north there, a little lighter, and then light winds for St. Lawrence Island south at 15. Southwesterlies at 30 for the Pribilofs, northwest 25 there for the waters west of St. Matthew Island. And then on Tuesday, notably lighter winds everywhere, light and variable under low pressure there for St. Lawrence Island. Light variable conditions here for Kuskokwim Bay south of Nunivak Island, kind of a 5 to 15 knot breeze there from the southwest for the north coast, and westerlies 15 for the Pribilofs. And looking up along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, brisk wind of, actually gales are out for the entire stretch of the coastline tonight, and then tomorrow brisk wind advisories here for the entire stretch of the coastline all the way over to Point Hope, and then southeast 25 there from Wales to Cape Thompson. And then that drops off to 20 knots due to a low farther to the south, but light 15 knots, southwest 10 for the west side, and then 20 to 25 knot winds here on the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. And looking at tonight again, rain heavy at times, changing to showers late for the Panhandle. Another trough brings rain and snow showers across a good portion of south central Alaska. Drier here north of the mountains, and then some scattered snow showers back to the west, and then drier north of the Brooks Range. And the winds diminishing. Those winter weather advisories this evening expire at 10 p.m., as is the one for the Kuskokwim Delta. But the high wind warning continues out for tonight for the Alaska Range, and then that'll be over tomorrow. Showers of rain or snow over the interior, and there's the next storm for Tuesday.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.